Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Severin and today we're going to explore the new moon in Sagittarius happening on the 14th of December 2020. This new moon is not just any new moon, this is a total solar eclipse, visible from South America and South Africa. But even if you cannot see it with your eyes perhaps, then at least it's tangible. And oh boy, has it been tangible for me. It has brought up some sleepless nights, some anxiety, some worries, confusions, and a whole other range of emotions that I didn't even know that were alive in me. And I will tell you how to deal with that. But just to remind you, eclipse seasons, they are here to push us into our own alignment. But normally alignment, it means we have to let go of something old, and we don't like that because, hey, we have accumulated that over time. We cannot just drop that, and then who are we if we are letting go of something old? That's perhaps a little bit scary, but eclipse season is there to push us anyway, and that perhaps can bring us into some uncomfortable situations, in some unexpected circumstances, into some sleepless nights and emotions that, like I said, didn't even know that we have them. So, eclipses, they come always in a couple or in trees. I have spoken about that 2 weeks ago when I spoke about the lunar eclipse in Gemini. And they're simply pushing us into a new domain, in a new theme that's alive for the next 6 months. So if we then reduce this total solar eclipse, then we could say this happens in Sagittarius. And because Sagittarius is where the South Node is, that's where we have accumulated a little bit too much of, that's what we have to let go a little bit of our belief system. And then the question remains, so what then is true for you? And I leave that with a question mark. For the entire conversation, we will elaborate a little bit more about that question that we are being pushed into. Comfortable or uncomfortable, nevertheless, we have to face it. So let me elaborate a little bit more. The South Node is the place where we have been accumulating too much, or where we have to drop a little bit of weight. So that means the philosopher, the explorer, the ones that wants to travel and accumulate more and have more isms, and philosophy and religion is the archetype for that per se, is that domain that we perhaps have accumulated a little bit too much. We have eaten a little bit too much with a big spoon. And that's not in a negative sense. I think all of us simply come from a family, from a school, from a surrounding that makes us who we are, that have shaped our belief system. But then, rather than accumulating more, it's much more about deconditioning. And deconditioning then is Gemini, is seeing something, two perspectives, two sides, seeing something with fresh eyes, or seeing that beginner's mind, where we actually acknowledging something that's there, but we don't have to react to it. And therefore we can allow it to move on, and then something new can arise, which in itself is meditation. And that means then that we don't have to drop or get rid of our emotions. And there's nothing wrong about intense emotions, but that can be that we do something wrong then with our emotions because the way we react to it, or that we reject and repress it. And then that depends very much on the social surrounding of what we are allowed to believe, what is taboo, what is rejected in ourselves, where has there been a hurt or a pain that we are afraid to step into because of surroundings, of reactions, of beliefs of others. And that's then exactly what we are dealing with. We would like to move forward, we would like to step into a new domain, build a new intention, but that doesn't come for free because we have to simultaneously acknowledge where we're coming from and why we are the way we are. And only if we can acknowledge and honor and intimately relate to whatever that is, then we can also allow it to be there while simultaneously step into a new direction. And then that is exactly what's happening right now. We have also Venus here in Scorpio in 28 degrees. So whenever we come to 28, 29 degrees, that's a time of maturation, of completion. So Venus relates to what we love, the needs that we would like to bring into our life that makes our lives more beautiful. And when we have that in Scorpio, that can be with some desires, with some wishes, maybe even something that's not acknowledged socially, but we still want. What if we would like to indulge? What we would like to satisfy our bodily sensations, and what if that then as a reaction might get rejected? Maybe then we better don't live that out, but the need is still alive in us. So that's something that's getting activated right now, and we have to deal with that, but in a new way. We could say where we are now in Capricorn, Pluto will still be there for the next 2-3 years until the end of 2023, but Jupiter and Saturn, they're together. They're both like at 28 and 29, almost 30 degrees. That means it's completion time. And that means in one way, Jupiter is moving forward with things that are in the domain of tradition, with the domain about family, in the domain of how we act on our workplace, how we are acting on our marriage, how we are behaving in our traditional sense. And we also have to move forward, but we also working thoroughly through it with Saturn. So it's not just stepping into the new domain, but actually working thoroughly through it. And that can be very exhausting. It's like hard-earned work that we have to thoroughly go through what is alive within us, and then even see kind of the sensations or emotions and fears perhaps even, or limitations that are coming up. And at the same time, we have then Neptune here in Pisces. And Neptune is adding a good portion, because it's squaring the Sun and the Moon, with confusion, where we are perhaps not so clear of where we want to head, or what do we want out of that, or where do we want to go instead. And that can leave us then where we are overwhelmed, where we are perhaps afraid, or we feel very alone, or we feel rejected. And basically that all comes from all these emotions or desires, and also these past isms that are there, that we are identifying ourselves, and then pushing ourselves through to work with them, and not just brush them off and create something new, but then to actually feel them, that we perhaps feel in a such rich and overwhelming emotional world that we don't know to whom we can share that, because that's then not the common day-to-day talk where you're just saying, how are you doing? I'm doing well. And how are you? This is like actually on the surface, I'm just managing to still breathe and hold myself alive. But actually internally, I don't know if there is anybody that understands my complex inner reality, because I myself, I am completely overwhelmed and I don't know where to go with that. And what we are all looking for then is that hole that we all need to fill, that we have to fill our own cups with some self-love, that it's okay that we are the way we are, and there's a reason for that. And all of us have had an imperfect and growing up situation, no matter like how much money your family had. Maybe there was an emotional imbalance. It doesn't matter how much love you received from your family, you had a bully at school, or whatever the story is, everybody has one. And we all are looking for acceptance, for love, for belonging, for meaning in life. And then we are trying to fit in society, Capricorn, and we have a belief system that makes us work. But what if right now, in order to create a new, fresh self that's much lighter, it's not about understanding what we want or like what is true for you, but maybe much more about, can we open up to what we thought is true for us is something that has brought us to where we are right now and right here, but we don't have to bring it everywhere. It's like there's this saying, like, where all the good intentions are paving the road to hell. So even if you have the best intentions, you're still holding on to a personality. And in that sense, meditation is what is really helping us right now, where we are closing our eyes and we're becoming more intimate with what is alive within us. That doesn't mean that we have to become silent, or that we shouldn't have any thoughts or any emotions or any images. Meditation in the sense of where we're becoming aware of what is already there. And when we can relate to that, when we become closer and more vulnerable to whatever that is, then acknowledging where we are trying to reject something, where do we have an inner battle going on, where do we have a conflict, and what are then our fears, where we might be socially rejected, where we get confronted again with the same reaction of our father that pushes us down physically, or our mother that rejects our love or our attention, or whatever the story is, and then willingly feeling into that pain, that actually gives us the healing that we were looking outside. And that doesn't mean that we have to then go alone, but that we can express that. And then the facade of the perfect human, everybody is functioning so well and everybody is so on his journey, is so not true. Where all of us are falling apart and we are on a collective level shifting from the Capricorn area more in the Sagittarius age. Or you could even say on a bigger picture, we're moving from Pisces into Aquarius. And right now we are just on the brink of moving more into Aquarius. On the 20th and 21st, we have here Jupiter and Saturn moving into Sagittarius, and that will bring much more of air quality, of flexibility, of mutability, and that means also allowing ourselves the capacity to be more flexible, to play out things that are so rigid anymore, like we have in Capricorn, where we have to live up to a standard, where we have to fulfill production and perfectionism, and where we have to be constantly producing and making more. But maybe it's not so much about doing and much more about sharing, earning, or owning less, and therefore being much freer in our minds and having more to give. And that's just the beginning of moving into that. But this eclipse, as a reminder, is just a time where we are moving into that. And just as a last one, we also have Mars being here squared by Pluto. So Mars is right now in 20 degrees and Pluto in 24. So over the next days we have the last and final square of Mars over Pluto. And that also means Pluto always transforms the planet that is in square with. And that means Mars has to learn how to take better care, or like how to take better actions, like not on a personal level, but actually on a level that's more mature. And that can be very difficult, especially on a physical level, where we feel it's almost like we're pushed down. We cannot speak up. We cannot bring up what we really feel. And that's exactly then speaking our truth is much harder, but it's much more rewarding, because it will press out of us what really is true for us. What do we really need if we really have only very few options, if we really want, and not just the freedom of whatever goes and comes our way. So with this, I'm ending the new moon or the solar eclipse talk, and I wish you a beautiful end of the year. I will speak to you again. I have more to say, but I'm personally going through a lot, and that's also why I'm not taking any readings on at the moment. I'm trying to at least just be there and for my own sake share more on YouTube, but I'm not giving any personal readings at the moment. So with that, I wish you all the best. Have a beautiful Christmas and even a beautiful New Year. I will hear you before that, and that's it. I will hear you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.